they're off. Welcome to Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management by Dynasty Financial Partners and hosted by CEO Shirl Penney.
Hello, welcome to another season of Around the Track. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management. I'm your host, Shirl Penney, founder and CEO of Dynasty Financial Partners, and I'm incredibly excited about this episode of Around the Track because I'm joined by a good friend and business partner, Louis Diamond, who is the CEO of Diamond Consultants. Louis, thank you so much for joining us here in Dynasty's studio in beautiful St. Pete to sit down and have this conversation with me.
Absolutely, Cheryl. Grateful to be here. Been excited about this.
All right, awesome. So you've seen Around the Tracks, you know there's only one rule, and I know you're not really a rule follower, but I'm going to throw it out there anyhow. We're going to do our best to make our way around the virtual track that'll be depicted behind us in roughly 15 minutes.
Perfect.
I'm going to ask you 8 rapid-fire questions. Each one of those questions represents one of the 8 furlongs in the mile track that's behind us. So with that said, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So in racing and in life, how you break from the gate matters. So I'm going to give you a nice, easy one to break out of the gate with. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, whether it's personally or professionally, your background, as well as Diamond Consultants.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. I think today I'll try to hit the parlay.
Okay.
So,
Well done.
So
Yeah.
So myself personally, I live today in beautiful Park City, Utah. Two young kids, beautiful wife that I've been with since high school, actually.
Oh, wow.
And I've had the privilege and honor of working in a family business for 12 years now. So 12 years ago, I joined up with my mom, Mindy, my father, Howard, who were the 2 original founders of our company. And it's been a wild ride since. Really getting a chance to eat our own home cooking. We help so many teams of advisors work through succession planning, working with family members, et cetera. So we've really had a front row seat to make that happen. And then really quick, I think the origin story of our company is interesting. My mom, Mindy, founded our company about 30 years ago. She was just started off ripping cold calls for her good friend Ed, who you know.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of grew from there. But the early realization that she had was that advisors or brokers at the time, they didn't want to be sold. They were more sophisticated than most, and it didn't feel good to her to be all about the deal or the transaction and what was best for her. So she really hit on our approach today, which is recruitment consulting. So always trying to find what's best for the advisor and trying to be as open architecture as possible with our approach to helping folks.
No, I love that. You know, one of the things we talk a lot about at Dynasty, which I think is an advantage, is that we are entrepreneurs that get to service and support other entrepreneurs. And what you just articulated is the same for you.
That's right.
And oftentimes, I'm sure you have advisors calling to ask you about succession planning and different ways to approach it. And it seems like you guys have executed a really great succession plan yourself, which you guys can speak to, which is really nice alignment. All right, so as Mindy would say, let's pivot.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed working with both Mindy and Howard, as well as Jason, your brother, who actually was a summer analyst at one point here at Dynasty. So it's a lot of fun to have you here now as well. Let's pivot because you guys are really known for working with some of the most elite teams in the industry. What are you seeing out there in terms of trends and what you're hearing from some of these big teams? And what are the things that you find that they most typically contemplate when they're calling you to think about a potential move?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing with big teams right now, no pun intended, is that these teams are forming, they're really becoming businesses within a business,
Right.
Almost like mini RIAs within the confines, oftentimes, of a major firm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of Open Arc Corporate Advisory,
That's
who
a good
was a
example.
recent incredible example of collaboration between Diamond Consultants and Dynasty, that's a perfect example. I mean, this team had close to 150 people or more on the team. They had more scale than probably 95% or more of RIAs.
Right.
They had a CIO, a COO, investment committee, every type of function that you would need. They just happened to have a 50% payout. Their equity was owned by Merrill Lynch in that case. But they were pursuing a very similar goal. So I think that obviously is a large scale example, but is symbolic of a big shift we're seeing with big teams today, where they're institutionalized. Like many
Right.
teams are hiring COOs. They're doing things that are very unique to their business, and because of that, they're looking to find the best possible landing spot, not just for now, but also for the next 15, 20, 30 years of their business.
Yeah. And that you mentioned that we worked together on it, so thank you for that. It
course.
was really a fun project over a reasonable period of time. I know you know this because we've talked about it. We're really proud that Open Arc represents the 25th team that we've now launched de novo at Dynasty that now has enterprise value of over 100 million.
That's incredible.
Right. So
Yep.
over the last 15 years, some of the firms obviously launched smaller and we've helped them grow. Some of them launched larger
Yep.
in the case of that team. But really proud of the wealth creation, oftentimes that you and I have been able to partner on, but for Dynasty over the last 15 or plus years. So that's a great example of an elite team, a complicated team. You guys, you have this, a quick plug for your podcast, because I personally am a big fan of the podcast on independence that you and Mindy and Jason's now doing some of the shows I've seen as well. You guys have so much content there. Why do you think, through all those conversations and others that you've had, why is the road or the path to independence so well traveled now? And what do you think is the reason that so many of these teams, whether they're smaller teams looking to join other RIAs, larger teams looking to join their own, why does it feel like it's accelerating now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, it was a couple of snowflakes. You think of like the Luminous Capital guys, who's like the archetype for the RIA world. They were like the first couple snowflakes.
Sure.
Financial crisis happens. Snowflake becomes a tiny snowball. That snowball picks up momentum with more corner office teams doing it. I would absolutely give you a plug. I mean, to me, like the ultimate enabler or kind of, we'll say, lubricant to independence has been firms like yours that were created to meet advisors where they were.
Right.
Most advisors, or even if they're the best advisors in the world and they're business people at heart, they haven't thought about real estate, corporate structure, equity compensation plans, health insurance, marketing, et cetera, capital. And firms like yours, and I think Dynasty is the preeminent leader in it, have given advisors the confidence to execute on it. And I think as more advisors start seeing their peers, people they respect, ultimately making this leap, and then now many more examples of selling these businesses for astronomical numbers that absolutely trump a retire-in-place program, a traditional forgivable loan. It becomes not obvious, but for the people that have the entrepreneurial DNA, they have the risk tolerance and the intestinal fortitude to make it happen. The time hasn't been more ripe. And I would agree with your premise that it feels like it's accelerating. I think it is, but at the same time, I don't think the wirehouses are going away. I mean, we track transition data, and like still approximately half of teams that transition are going to stay within their channel or their model. It still leaves, there's a lot of advisors who transition. A large part of advisors who historically would have just gone from one wire to another are now coming into the independent world.
Yeah, there's so many great comments, I think, and points that you made there. We definitely find that a lot of the larger teams, certainly the ones that we work with, want a supported independent model, and they realize that the best use of their time and talent is with clients and getting new ones, not running middle and back office, so partnering up with us. We found that the Dynasty Delta typically on average delivers about 500 basis points of enhanced earnings for the advisors that are powered by Dynasty. And then you mentioned some of these enterprise values, which is a good segue to our next question. Dynasty has a leading investment bank in the space, and we're constantly transacting, whether it's on the buy side or the sell side, and we're seeing valuations reach multiples as high as 20, in some cases even more, 20 times EBITDA, with these really well-run businesses that are growing well. So with that as a lead-in, one of the new initiatives in our partnership that I have to tell you we're super excited about is the Breakaway Bank initiative that we put together. Could you tell the audience a little bit about the initiative and why you think it's a bit of a game changer for advisors looking to make a significant move?
Absolutely. So I would say we're noticing a recent trend where, similar to OpenArc and numerous other examples of these teams, they're big, they're complex, they have scale. They're honestly the ideal either acquisition targets for a large RIA acquirer aggregator,
Yep.
or they're large enough in their own right to attract institutional capital. Think more of a minority sale to private equity or a family office.
Yeah.
But I realized that these teams, they didn't really know where to start. They all heard about their friend who sold to here. Their friend got this multiple, which is always inflated by 30, 40%, as you know.
Yeah.
And they really didn't know how any of these options stacked up against, we'll say, the kind of the old guard, which was, if I transition, I'm going to get a forgivable loan to go from one firm to another, or I'm just going to bootstrap it and I'm going to bet on myself and go independent. And I think we're seeing that now there's another way.
Yeah.
And as we're thinking through this, execution on the investment banking side was a gap for us at Diamond Consultants. We know the landscape, we know how to guide teams, we know how to talk about value, but we really needed a partner who can help on the M&A execution side.
Right.
And honestly, no better partner than the Dynasty Investment Bank. I couldn't think of two names within wealth management, Diamond Consultants and Dynasty, who aren't more synonymous with the breakaway movement. So
Yeah.
extremely grateful that you were interested in developing this concept and building it with us.
Yeah.
And we've had some really great early traction so far.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I'm really excited about our pipeline already, and just the difference that we're making, because I think we're both big believers in education.
Yep.
And making sure that education is the start of the process. Start early, make sure you understand all your options, and you guys are just so great on the education front. And as many people have called us kind of the Navy SEALs of transitions. From an execution standpoint, we're able to execute seemingly any type of transition, as well as raise the capital that's going to be needed for transition as well. So time will tell how excited the market is about it, but from all the early reach out, I'm pretty excited about it.
I think this is going to be pretty successful.
Yeah.
And even if it's not the transformative event for both of our businesses, I think our joint prediction is, if we can get a handful of additional teams a year who are at least thinking about this, it's going to be a massive, massive movement for the industry. And I think it's going to set the tone for the next decade of advisor transitions.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on the backstretch now, and let me slow it down. Sometimes in race riding, you have to slow it down a little bit to not make your move too early. So I'm going to go a little bit back to the basics here. Somebody's thinking about making a move, and you can decide: is that move to independence? Is that an M&A transaction? Some people now, I think we're seeing more and more, want all the benefits of independence, but they don't necessarily want to run their own business. So it's like a breakaway M&A scenario. But someone who's I just mentioned education, someone who's looking to get started with education, obviously they should call you. But other than call you, what are some of the questions, kind of from a reflection into perspective, that they should start to think about to know that making a move might be right for them?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the first thing is realizing that you have to ask yourself a lot of hard questions. I find that a lot of really successful advisors, they kind of just jump right in. They get cold called by so-and-so, their buddy went here, the manager from the firm across town reached out to them and they're flattered, and they just kind of jump into a process, and they don't really have a North Star. So advisors who work with us, whether they choose to work with us or not, we really rewind the tape, or in your words, slow it down. And we start from the beginning. I'd give you three, I think, critical foundational questions. The first one is, what is it that you're trying to solve for? That's the most important one. If you don't have a target to shoot at, you're really just spraying and praying. So you really got to know what are the main criteria that you're trying to solve for. That's number one.
Okay.
Second question is, if you were to transition, what are the resources or capabilities that you've actually benefited from at your current firm, whether it's research, lending, the brand, their marketing support, et cetera. And then the third question, which I think leads very well into, is someone even the right fit to break away, to sell their business, et cetera, is how do you think about risk tolerance, or what's your short, medium, long-term financial goals or perspectives? And that could mean, I want the biggest amount of money up front, and let's say more of a traditional forgivable loan. It's I want to bet on myself. I'm playing the long game here,
Yeah.
and I know that might be a hard conversation with my spouse about not getting tens of millions of dollars to transition today, but I'm building for the next generation. I'm building a legacy. I'm creating real enterprise value. So we usually have a 20-question assessment we take all of our advisor clients through, but I'll give you the free preview, I think, are those 3 questions.
Got it. Awesome. And of course, I'm sure people can go to your website, Diamond Consultants, can probably get a lot of this information, a lot of your white papers that are there. They can go to dynastyfinancialpartners.com, and we have a lot of information there as well. But as I said at the onset, it's just getting educated. One of the things I really like that you said is oftentimes, we're both out on the speaking circuit, and I'll be, belling up to a bar late at night with an advisor who's asking me if we can get them out what they call a bad contract.
Yeah.
They ended up selling to or doing a deal with someone, and I asked, well, who else do you speak to? And it's like, to your point, no one.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Just like you would tell someone to run a process with an investment bank, for most advisors, this is their most important asset, right? They have to get educated, and they should be running a process.
I agree.
All right, so as we get ready to round the turn for home, I don't think there's probably not everyone realizes, because you guys are so well known for the consulting and the work that you guys do helping advisors move. Not too long ago, you guys added another business vertical, which is executive search. So why did you guys decide to do that? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, this business line was created as a natural extension to all the work we've done for the last 30 years. But the real light bulb moment was, I would say every year we probably help launch 30 to 40 new independent businesses, whether they're breaking away from an independent broker-dealer, it's a de novo RIA launch, it's a firm partnering with Dynasty or anyone else.
Breakaways from RIAs now. We're seeing
Breakaways from RIAs, exactly.
Yeah.
And those firms, they all need talent, either now or in the future. So we were referring out a lot of these opportunities with amazing relationships that we had. And I realized that we can do this better. There's a lot of really good boutique kind of 1- and 2-man recruitment firms. Of course, you have the Korn Ferries and Heidrick and Struggles and Robert Half's of the world. But I didn't see anyone that had scale within our industry who was a true specialist. So it's been about a year that we've been doing this. I'd say most of the roles that we've been retained on are either more of a wealth manager, someone who doesn't have a book of business, who's going to slot in and work the Fidelity or Schwab channels for an RIA, or be the second chair advisor, or be part of a succession plan. And it's insane the number of firms that are looking for this. I always thought I was biased that everyone always wanted advisors with books, which they do. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But the number of firms that are looking for CFPs with 5, 7, 10 years of experience, or just really good servicers, or even just really good business developers who don't want to service, has been mind-boggling. And I think the role that I'm most excited about seeing more and more is chief growth officer.
Yeah, sure.
We've been retained on a couple of searches, and it's such a cool and exciting role because it straddles M&A, it straddles recruiting, it straddles organic growth channels. And I think both of those types of roles are examples of firms playing offense. And I think the insatiable hiring needs that breakaway clients of ours have, but also every good firm these days has on the agenda.
Yeah, there's this professionalization, right, that's going on in the space, and you mentioned it in one of your earlier responses. I mean, there's incredible businesses that are being created, and that requires leadership, which is a good pivot now to my second to last question for you. Probably when I solicit feedback from the audience of Around the Track about questions that they want for me to ask guests, there's always a heavy concentration around leadership. And in particular, if you think about our business, we're launching RIAs, which creates a lot of first-time CEOs. And you not too long ago, right, have moved into a CEO role of a rapidly growing business. And I'm sure there's been some growing pains and a lot of learnings. And at least from the outside, it looks like you're killing it. So congratulations on that. But maybe just ask you to quickly reflect on, your leadership style, the approach, what it's been like, any guidance you might have for another person that might be stepping up into a relatively significant leadership role, perhaps for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's such a cool question. I appreciate it because honestly, it's like when you're running fast, it's hard to stop and reflect and really think about I didn't really think about those very questions. The first thing I would say is like, first off, thank you for saying that. At least from the outside, it looks like we know what we're doing and that we've executed on a good plan. It's one of those things that like you always look at other people. You put other people on a pedestal, and you're like, oh my God, it's so easy for them. They have it made.
Yeah.
But what you don't reflect and recognize is the amount of hard work and sacrifices and just things that happen behind the scenes. And that was definitely our experience.
Yeah, Dynasty was an overnight 25-year success story, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was a lot of hard work between my mom and I, my mom, brother and I, my dad, my brother and I. So like you have all the family stuff, but also the business. But it has been incredible. An interesting dynamic that I had within our firm was the average tenure of our consultants is close to 20 years. We have 6 folks on our team that have been consultants with Mindy since pretty much the beginning.
Yeah.
So most of these people, they're at my bar mitzvah. So seeing these people in a professional setting and now asking them to call me their leader, I mean, that's definitely kind of like an imposter syndrome moment. So I think it's just looking at my style, it's more lead by example. Like we always preach excellence. So I know I have to be excellent in everything I do. Every engagement with advisors has to be world class. And if I keep pacing and setting the bar even higher for the size of teams we work with, the amount of deals we do, the new partnerships we have, then I'm going to lead by example. And I think that's my biggest style that I would point out.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. You know, I've told your parents over the years, and I've known your family for a long time, that I'm a bit jealous that because there's similarities between our family and yours. Is my wife and I have 2 daughters, and the 4 of us are super close. Just like I know the 4 of you, 2 boys, and your parents are close, and you guys would remember back when, because I'm older than you, so I remember when you were younger, your parents telling me about trips to Atlantis and the things that you guys would love to do. We do the same type of thing with our kids, and I want them to ultimately do whatever it is that makes them happy, and I'm sure your parents were the same way. But I can tell you from the parent side how fulfilling and I'm sure wonderful it is for them to be able to work with their kids and for you to take this family business into the next generation. So congratulations to you, to Jason, and to Mindy and Howard as well. All right, last question. You're not going to be surprised, because it's the same question I've asked on the previous 65 or so episodes, which is to tell us about what's your Triple Crown. And what I mean by that is, what is that big, seemingly unattainable goal, right, that you're going to wake up early every morning and go run after, which, you know, for us that, you know, like to play the game of horse racing, it's winning one and maybe ultimately the Triple Crown. Doesn't happen very often, but we're still motivated to go after it. So what for you, Louis Steinman, would be your Triple Crown? Yeah,
my Seabiscuit moment, if you will. I would say it's, and yeah, I think this is a good one. I was reflecting on this answer. My goal is that every team of significance in the industry, when they think about transitioning, they think of Diamond Consultants. And similar to if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company and you're thinking through a strategic consulting engagement, you think of McKinsey, you think of Bain, you think of Boston Consulting Group. My goal is that every advisor, when they think of transitioning, when they think of selling out of a wirehouse, et cetera, they think of Diamond Consultants. And we have our pick of the litter as far as how do we keep up with capacity and retain our service model. But that every team, essentially, we have first crack at. And it's just a non-negotiable that if you're transitioning, thinking about change, you're curious about the landscape, that you're calling Diamond Consultants. Awesome. I'm not a big gambler or bettor. When I go to the track, I just love to watch my horses run. But in this particular case, I would tell you, I would not bet against you. I would definitely place a bet on you to be successful with that goal. It's a good one. Thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to another edition of Around the Track.